going to start with a statement from the Board of Directors. Regarding the operation of the stables, the board has deliberated in good faith over the last several months regarding a difficult decision pertaining to the future of the stables. The board has thoughtfully taken into consideration the needs of and its duties to act in the best interest of all the members and residents of Fairfield Glade, which in total number over 12,000 property owners. The board has evaluated recommendations, financial data, inspection reports, and numerous other points of information to guide its conclusions and decisions. After consideration and deliberation, the board unanimously came to the decision on September 26, 2024, to close the stables effective December 31st, 2024, which is the termination date of the current lease. However, the board also directed that the property and improvements at the stables be included for future deliberation in the strategic planning as part of our land use plan. Contrary to rumors, there is no plan to remove the buildings and no plan to develop or sell the property. Also, the sycamore tree will remain, as will the gardens for the enjoyment of the community. The board's resolution was made publicly, and its decision and rationale have been explained and published publicly more than once. Insomuch as the board has been threatened with litigation in this matter, and based upon the advice of counsel, it will, for the foreseeable future, not comment on the stables and its decision to close the stables. Okay.
For transparency.
Folks, you'll have a chance to make your comments. This is a board meeting, it's not your meeting.
No, it's a workshop.
It's a workshop.
You're
If we want to keep up,
Greg, let's just move on.
we'll move on. All right, finance report, Jason.
Thank you, Greg. So I'm reporting the financials as of October 31st, 2024. Sewer operations revenue of $2.7 million. It was favorable to budget by $134,000. Expenses were $2.1 million, which is favorable to budget by $62,000, which gives us a net surplus on sewer operations of $549,000, which is favorable of $196,000. As of cash, operating cash for the sewer is $1.3 million. Capital is $3.085 million. POA and amenities revenue is $20.2 million, unfavorable to budget by $681,000. The cost of sales were $2.1 million, which is unfavorable to budget by $147,000. Our expenses for POA and amenities year to date is $17.1 million, which is favorable to budget by $612,000, which gives us $932,000, which is unfavorable to budget by $217,000 for POA and amenities. As far as cash or capital, we had $4.3 million. Operating, which was $1.6 million. And in our reserve, we have $6.397 million. And that's my report, Greg. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board? Anyone? Okay. Major capital projects, Druid Hills. We're going to take all questions at the end. Druid Hills, Sam?
Should I go here?
You can, yeah.
Okay, there's mics up here. The Druid Hills project, we have a certificate of occupancy for the temporary structure for the pro shop. The electric, water, sewer is all hooked up at the pro shop. The food service truck is installed at the pro shop. There's some final polishing to be done on that. The Druid Hills utilities will be shut off tomorrow and or Friday, and demolition will begin on Monday. The contractor's due to arrive on Monday. Any questions on Druid?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bocce ball courts, sidewalks, and Robin Hood Park, Sam.
Okay, they did a final walkthrough with the contractor yesterday for the bocce ball courts and the sidewalks. The sidewalks are done. The bocce ball court is all complete with the exception of some minor cleanup.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board on that? All right.
Sam, do we have a date when we think we're going to open up the bocce courts?
I'll have to get with Mary Jo Page and discuss. I get the things done. I don't.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, it can be used probably Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're into member comments.
Great. Time limit?
Yes, I'm going to tell that. We're going to put a time limit on all the comments because I understand there's a number of people that want to talk. And that time limit will be 2 minutes. And when that 2 minutes is up, we will ask you to step down, okay?
Jonathan, we don't take handouts. We give those to Pat.
Jerry, before you get started, you know a lot more about us than we do you. Who is the committee of member awareness? I mean, how many people are on it, or how many people are with it, that type of thing?
There's 4 of us.
4 of you? Okay.
On purpose. We could have had 50.
Please speak in the mic so people can hear you, okay?
There's 4 of us. We could have had 50, but we want to keep it manageable, communication manageable, so we have 4 people right now,
Okay.
representing a whole lot of people.
So when you say that, what's the purpose of the committee?
We have it's called member awareness, to make the members aware of what's going on.
Oh, what,
Of anything, of a lot. Primarily this, right now.
what's this? Jerry, there's a whole bunch of people
Jerry,
watching
you-
on TV, and they can't divine what we're talking about
I
here.
forgot about the people on TV. We formed this committee because of frustration with the lack of transparency of this board to the members, and we think we can help with making members aware of things going on that they don't get from this board. And so far, we've been fairly successful with that, and we'll continue doing that. As long as the board continues not to be transparent, including executive sessions that are private, we don't know what's going on with this, in this community. Members do not know what's going on. So we are here to try to make people aware of things we find out that they otherwise would not know. That's basically what we're all about. And it's a shame we have to do this, but there's got to be somebody like us, if not us, somebody like us, to do what we're trying to do.
Jerry,
Does that
can I-
explain? Yes, Scott.
You made it, you
Pardon?
and I have talked quite a bit, even before I got on the board, and you've had a number of interactions. I can't hear you, Scott. You're on.
You're on, just need to get it closer.
You've had a number of interactions over the years with a lot of the different boards, right? Is this just a continuation of the efforts that you've made over the years with the various
I don't know what you keep
boards?
saying you. You keep
What's that?
saying you. It's like I'm.
You've shared with me numerous various
I have,
issues over the
and all
years.
with all
And didn't you make
great
a-
intentions.
Didn't you make a quote about you're trying to catch the board in your newspaper? No?
Catch the board on what?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to get.
Look, if they're going to attack me, let's have another session, all right? I'm not going to sit here
No,
and
I'm just
defend
trying to get
myself.
clear as to what your intentions are and what they
I've
have been
told
over the
you what my
years.
intentions are. My intentions are what they've been for a long time, to try to help this community realize its full potential and try to get people involved. People aren't here involved. Why aren't they involved, Scott? Why don't people come to these meetings? Because they can't make a difference. They feel they can't make a difference here. We want people to make a difference here. You don't want us to make a difference here.
Oh, that is so untrue, Jerry. So untrue. You know that's not true. We're all here for
That's
the same
absolutely
reason.
true.
We're all
Why
for
have
the
they
same
dropped out?
reason.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Why have they
Okay,
dropped
hold on.
out, Scott?
Hold on.
You started it.
Hold on. This is not a productive conversation.
Thank you.
But just, so I have the right understanding, there's 4 of you on the committee,
Yes.
and your purpose is really just to try to make people aware of what's going on here.
That's right.
Okay, all right. With that, go on ahead and make your statement.
Okay, what I just passed out we started a petition. Every member, every board member should have a copy. And Pat,
Well, we're not going to talk this.
don't have to read it, I'll just explain what it is. We started a petition. The petition's there, and 890 people have signed this petition so far. As of yesterday, numbers still come in every day. And these people paid anywhere from $11 to $30 to sign their names. It was more than just a name on a petition, a piece of paper. They really heartfelt signatures. So just pay attention to that, and we won't talk more about it, but it's self-explanatory.
As you well know, this is a community that has membership.
That's correct.
How many members signed that petition, do you know?
I went through the addresses, Greg, and just briefly looked at them. I'm going to say probably 80% are Fairfield Glade residents.
Well, the site says 64% were in the 3 zip codes representing Crossville, around Crossville, and here.
That's what it is. I was just quickly looking at 64, if that's the number.
But that's not all members.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. We have people from Florida signed it. It could be,
Yeah.
from snowbirds, it could be timeshare, it could be whatever. We have people from Cookville sign it. They probably use the trails
Sure.
and so forth. So it's a lot of people are concerned and interested in the stables. That's what it means.
Okay.
So, but if somebody went through and calculated, if they say 64, it's 64. I did not do that. I just took a quick look at it. Okay. On November 9, I'll just be a couple minutes here. In November 9, the Stables Committee held, which was probably his last meeting. No board liaison showed up. I understand there was a conflicting board meeting, but they have 2 liaisons. One probably should have been there. The committee talked about how they felt misled and they're disappointed in the decision. But what's important, there was 30 other people at this meeting, 30 guests. And these people spoke of the value of the stables to them and the community. And also they expressed anger and concern, which is the most important thing here, over how this board has handled this entire matter. We felt the board, we being the Committee for Member Awareness, felt that the board should hear these comments since no one was there to hear it. So we
Right.
scheduled a meeting for,
Greg, we're at 3 minutes.
Okay, you're going to have to wrap up. We're way past the time, so we'll give you
wait,
another
wait,
minute.
I
We'll
just
give you
started.
another- we'll
I
give
just
you-
started.
We will give you another minute or two. Go on.
So we scheduled a meeting for December 5th, and 78, we set it for 30, 78 people showed up. And they were very focused, very emotional, and it went way beyond the stables closing. It went to the heart of how they feel about how this board has not been open with them on most of anything. So they talked about that. So what they want to do, they want to be heard. So today they're here, they're going to be heard. And please don't shut them down because they need to be heard, they want to be heard. So, and I think you need to hear them. So that's about what we're all about. And I'll turn this meeting, last thing I say, the fabricated financials is probably the worst thing you could have done. This seemed to be the core of a lot of things. Now they're asking, what numbers? Other numbers are bad too. What numbers in the future will be bad? Can we trust any of the numbers? So this is going right now way beyond the stables closing. Let me just say that to you. This board has to look at itself, internally to itself, and decide how can we do something different here to make sure we're heard by this board. Okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. John, so the fabricated numbers are a big problem here. Okay, John.
John, before you start with your statement, I just have 1 or 2 questions for you.
Sure.
You are an elected representative of the community for the Board of Commissioners, or the county board. You're also a
County
member.
commissioners, yes.
Pardon me? Yeah, you're also a member of the Committee of Member Awareness, I believe.
Correct.
And you're also a homeowner here.
Yes.
Okay. In which aspect are you speaking from today? All three, one? What is your role in this conversation today?
I'm not speaking as a county commissioner. I'm
Okay.
speaking on behalf of the members to bring awareness of the operations of the board that people would not normally have.
Okay. One other thing, for those of you that are going to come up, I'm going to ask you to please state your name and your address so that we know, in fact, that you are a member here, okay?
My name is John Patterson. I live at 108 Walden Ridge Drive. Recently, you accepted as gospel certain financial reports that you either knew were bogus or you failed in your due diligence to look beyond just the bottom line. For example, this is a water bucket. I bought it for $9.99 at Rural. You projected as expense $55,000 for water buckets over the next 2 years. The stables don't need 5,500 water buckets. That's enough to last for 1,000 years. This is a bucket hook, chrome plated, lasts a lifetime. You mount it to the wall, it doesn't get lost, horses don't step on it. You projected expense of $12,000 for bucket hooks. I bought this one for $3. The stables don't need 4,000 bucket hooks. $24,000 for a new sign. A few mistakes? No. In reality, there were 120 separate expense items in these financial reports. 93% were overstated to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just have two questions for you this morning. In light of the fact that the projected expenses in those financial reports were overstated by almost $1 million, and were used as a result to your decision to close the stables.
It's 2
My
minutes, Greg.
question is,
Greg, that's 2 minutes.
at this point in time, would you consider examining the truth, reopen the issue, and
Well, I'll
reconsider your
tell you,
decision?
John, that you heard our statement at the beginning. It speaks for itself where we are.
Fine.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, that,
Well, you heard our statement at the beginning. I read it. That tells you where we are with this conversation.
can you repeat, though, tells you where we are? Does that mean you will not reopen the?
Read it again.
I'm going to read the statement again.
Thank you.
Regarding the operation of the stables, the board has deliberated in good faith over the last several months regarding the difficult decision pertaining to the future of the stables. The board has thoroughly taken into consideration the needs of and its duties to act in the best interest of all the members and residents of Fairfield Glade, which is a total number over 12,000 property owners. The board has evaluated recommendations, financial data, inspection reports, and numerous other points of information to guide its conclusions and decisions. After consideration and deliberation, the board unanimously came to the decision on September 26, 2024, to close the stables effective December 31st, 2024, which is the termination date of the current lease. However, the board also directed that the property and improvements at the stables be included for the future deliberation and strategic planning as part of our land use plan. Contrary to rumors, there is no plan to remove the buildings and no plan to develop or sell the property. Also, the sycamore tree will remain, as will the gardens, for the enjoyment of the community. The board's resolution was made publicly, and its decision and rationale have been explained and published publicly more than once. Inasmuch as the board has been threatened with litigation in this matter, and based upon the advice of counsel, it will, for the foreseeable future, not comment on the stables and its decision to close the stables.
To wrap up,
because of the way you've handled this issue, a lot of members feel they can't believe you, especially regarding the financial information you give us. Each year you have an audit, but that audit only confirms 2 + 2 = 4. They don't delve into details. I ask this question: will you agree today to truly open your books and pay for an independent forensic examination of the club's finances? Yes or no?
I just read our statement again. So thank you very much, John, for your comments.
What are you hiding?
Please, someone
Your
else, if
time's
you
up,
want to
Don.
speak.
Good morning. My name is Patty Vilhauer. I've been a property owner since 2017, and I was on the stable committee. A few things were told to us that are 100% untrue. One was that we were not to talk to John Cannon, and he's the leasee of the Wildwood Stables. We were told that there are ongoing legal issues or matters, and that we should not talk to him, that the only talk would be through lawyers, and that's how Fairfield talked with him, through lawyers. That's untrue. John Cannon said, there's no ongoing legal matters between me and Fairfield. So where's the truth in that? Anybody want to comment?
There's not going to be a comment.
Oh, okay, that's fine. The next issue was in a couple articles in the Glade Sun. One was on October 30th, and the other one was on November 27th. In the article, it stated that you, Mr. Jones, stated that relatively few residents or visitors use the amenity. Where did those numbers come from? Did somebody come and tell you? John Cannon told the committee what his numbers are, and that is untrue because he ran it successfully. He made money for 16+ years. The stable committee projected when money would be made, and that was, at that time last summer, would be in 2026, and here we're on the doorstep of 2025. It would be profitable by then. Has the restaurants been profitable? Do we see that in the future? Every year, more money goes in, more money goes in, but it's an amenity. I understand why you have it. Why isn't the stables considered the same thing, an amenity? Does golf pay for itself? I don't know that fact or figure. Does everything else? I know there are profitable amenities, but not all the amenities are profitable. But why would the stables be held to a higher standard when we know it can make money in the future?
Okay, wrap up, please. Yeah.
One more thing. Again, Mr. Jones, you unfortunately are the face of the board. So in the article, it said the financials, and I'm quoting, the financials didn't make sense. And that's a true statement. They don't make any sense. The numbers that were used to close down, and every single one of you said we closed it because of the financials. They don't make sense. That is very true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Bill, Greg, thank you for the time to speak to you.
Please, name and
I will.
property.
I'm Catherine Henderson. I live on Sugarbush Circle. I've been at Fairfield Glade since November of 2020. I'm not here to talk about the stables. Fairfield Glade is a community that attracts people with an active and flexible lifestyle. It includes a low cost of living, premier golf courses, great hiking trails, and racket sports. People live and move here with the expectation that all of the amenities are going to be maintained in quality and quantity. I speak for myself and numerous others when I say the main draw for me to move here was the indoor tennis facility. I've worked at the Racket Center for 2 years. I'm no longer employed there. And I just completed my third and final year. My last meeting was yesterday on the Racket Sports Committee. So please consider me fully vested in what happens here. There's no doubt that tennis and pickleball are growing, although you only hear about pickleball. I'm sure most of you know that pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports, but you probably haven't heard that tennis is also growing. There are 24 million people that play tennis. There are 9 million people that play pickleball. There are almost 6 million new tennis players since 2020. That's a 33% increase. And there are more tennis players than pickleball, squash, racquetball, and badminton combined. I'm here to talk about the decision to line Court 3 with pickleball lines at the Racket Center. I was completely taken aback when yet another tennis court was lined for pickleball. And having three years on the Racket Committee, I tell you the decision was not data-driven. The numbers do not show that we needed another pickleball court inside. We have 3 perfectly lined pickleball courts in the center in a facility that's already multi-lined use for sports. Instead, you opted to take away another court, leaving us only 2 courts. There are no courts at Druid anymore, even though they were in terrible condition. People sometimes played there. And now timeshares, residents, and guests have no place to play if the 2 courts are being used for lessons, clinics, or other things. We've already lost pickleball people due to the noise inside, and now you've added to that exponentially. And when I tell you that it's an issue, it's an issue. Some people will not play tennis when pickleball is inside because of the noise. So we have no other options to play. So please understand that the membership here is frustrated because you continue to increase fees and POA dues and take away amenities, which is not part of the Fairfield Glade plan. There was no discussion with the Racket Committee before this was done. There was no opportunity for the membership to talk about the issues of lining pickleball or give you any options for tennis. They have many other places to play, and they can play outside if the weather is good. Certainly not today. But if the weather is decent, they can go outside. We can't. We have no other courts to play. And finally, there was no thought, as I said, to using the center where there is plenty of opportunity and open time to play. The plan for Fairfield Glade should be to allow both sports to grow and coexist equally. The fact that Court 3 was lined without any discussion is appalling, and the lack of transparency is totally unacceptable. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Holly Clark. I live at 115 Haven Ridge Circle. We built the house in 1999 and moved in 2021. We've owned property here since 1986. We love Fairfield Glade. For some period of time, I have been very aware that the residents are not aware of what is going on with the quote-unquote elected board. I am very disappointed. Have I ever run for a committee? No. I don't believe in the secrecy and the lack of transparency that goes on with not only this board, but boards in the past. I am aware to be elected to, I have heard, to be elected to this board, you must have the approval of Wyndham and the developer. They'd never approve me. Why should I bother to try? I am thankful this situation with the stables. No, I don't own a horse, but I ride. I used to ride. I've kind of aged out of that. Because of this situation, it appears the residents are aware, becoming aware of the mess right now. That's my comment.
I'm going to just clean up one thing on that, and that's your statement about Wyndham and the developer. There is no approval, there is no need or requirement to talk to them. And just for the record, let's be clear about this. The declarant owns 13 lots. That's what he votes. And Wyndham has 1,295, and since they do pay their dues, they get to vote all 1,295. But there is no requirement for any board member or anybody running for the board to see anybody as the declarant or talk to anybody at Wyndham.
Unfortunately, the members, and I have been aware of this for some time, the members don't vote. Why should they vote? Why don't they vote? Maybe now, because of this situation, they will begin to realize they need to vote.
That's a good thing. We want those people to vote.
You better believe I do too.
Good.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
My name is Earl Lashinsky. I'm at 117 Windsor Road. I had a speech all prepared, and when I walked in, I saw the sign over here, and I wish, why don't you step over here and show them that sign? I don't care so much about Greg Jones and that thing, but the children is what I'm after. I believe you're putting money in front of children, okay? That program, the Standing Tall program, that was fantastic. And when they brought this, I want you to think of those children, board members, because I brought my grandchildren out there and many others, and we helped save those children. So please think of that. And congratulations, I'm glad the bocce court is doing well.
I'm going to clear up one other comment there. Standing Tall is not part of the property. John owns that situation. Whatever we did with the stables, we would not have had the Standing Tall program. That is not ours.
That is not yours.
No.
It isn't.
But the land is there.
Yes.
And it was being used for that. And if it continues, you will be saving children, okay? Because someone will take over that program.
Well,
I wish you a Merry Christmas.
well, the
too.
Standing Tall program, just again to clarify, John, what we've heard, has every intention where he has now is continuing that. But we could not do the Standing Tall program because it's not ours, okay?
Yeah,
All right.
fine. It's not yours. It will be someone else's
Yeah, okay.
on
It's
that
always been so.
piece of property.
Comedy or we not?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm on more with you.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Thorson, and I am your neighbor. I live up on 142 Hickory Ridge Lane, so I live next to a couple of you. So anyway, I love Fairfield Glade. Moved here because of, not golf, I'm not a golfer, but the other amenities. The stables was one of them. I've had horse farms in Ocala, Florida, in the Finger Lakes of New York, as well as in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I love horses, and I am very concerned about the stables. And what it really comes back to is the transparency. It's why were the financials overstated so much? Why did the committee not get talked to that was put in charge of making a recommendation? And the question that I have in regards to transparency, because I know there are a lot of questions, is maintenance. What's happening with all of our maintenance dollars? Whether it's Wildwood Stables, whether it's the old Druid building, whether it's the bathroom even on Catoosa. Why are these buildings not being maintained? Rather, they are being leveled and rebuilt. So I know that there's maintenance dollars. Thank you. I know there's maintenance dollars coming in. Can you give us accountability for those maintenance dollars as to how they're being used? What's being maintained? Can we see those financials? Is there an answer?
We'll try to deal with that one at the end. Please,
Okay,
Councilperson.
and, you know, along with that transparency, we just want to get some answers. And I know you've said you will not comment on the stables. When do we get to ask those questions? And when do we get answers? Because we've been trying.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name's Kelly Schwartz. I live at 31 Dillon Lane. I was on the Wildwood Stables Committee and also had 2 horses boarded at the stables. After months of assurances that closing the stables was not on the table and that the stables had the full support of the board, the decision to close it was a sucker punch. And then to learn that the decision was based on grossly falsified financials, passed off as a work product of the committee, financials we never saw or knew about, well, that was another gut punch. Nearby horse boarding options have few vacancies, and it was made worse by the closure of Wildwood. Boarding my horses 20 to 30 miles away is about as tolerable as boarding your dog or cat 20 or 30 miles away permanently. Reacting rather than planning rarely works out, so under duress, our 3 to 5 year plan became a 60-day plan, and continuing to live in Fairfield Glade was no longer an attractive option, especially given how decisions are made around here. We shipped 1 horse to Washington State at considerable unplanned expense. Bids for transporting my horse Mia to Washington ranged from $3,000 to $5,000, and she lost 50 pounds during the trip. We found a humane, though heart-wrenching option for my elderly horse who could not handle a cross-country trip in a horse trailer through the northern Rockies in the wintertime. My equine partner, Mo, had been a part of my life for 16 years. We had a lot of scrambling to do to get as much done in as short amount of time as possible, which meant canceling and changing plans, appointments, house hunting, packing, purging, and more. All this is especially irritating knowing that the decision to close the stables was made prior to June. Equally disturbing is that no one from Fairfield Glade Community Club or the board of directors ever communicated with those boarding horses at Wildwood, most of whom are residents. The closest they came to communicating with us was having their lawyer send a threatening letter to the lessee telling them to make sure all the horses were gone by 12/31/24 or else.
My name is Polly Dykstra. I live at 18 Thames Terrace. Of course, Bruce and Greg, you know who I am because I was on the committee as well. I think my main concern is that as a committee, we worked diligently with honesty and integrity to do the job that you set us to do, which was to come up with a viable plan for the stables, pretty much. That's about what it was. So we did so, totaling a few thousand hours of our time, only to discover that most likely the decision to close the stables had been made before we were even finished creating our recommendation to you all. It's just disheartening and disappointing. I also moved my horse 20 miles from here. It's a 40-mile round trip, and I can't make that daily. It's just not fiscally responsible for my budget. But we're just concerned about also, I'll say it as well, the transparency of this board, the honesty of this board. We would just like to, it would be great if we had known ahead of time that we didn't need to continue with what we were doing. We were pushed in June to make sure we had our recommendation to you all by July, only to find out that come September, it was all for naught.
Thank you.
Yes, all.
Thank you.
My name is Sharon Kay. I live at 21 Dockside Drive. I have a 30-year-old horse that I've owned for 22 years. My name is Sharon Kay, 21 Dockside Drive. I moved here because of the stables. My horse is 30 years old. I've had him 22 years. He has to have his food soaked twice a day because he's old. And now where I had to move him, I'm like Polly, I can't go twice a day. So yeah, he's losing weight and he probably won't be with me anymore. And I like the number 3 here, maintaining honesty, integrity, and transparency in everything we do. You as a board have not done that. Not to anybody. You had no regard for horses. 22 years I've owned this animal, and now I have to watch him suffer and lose weight every day because I can't go feed him twice a day. I don't know how you people sleep at night. I'd like to see all of you resign.
I'm Holly Billhauer. I live at 106 Flossmoor Circle. I moved here because I had a place to put my horse at Wildwood Stable. The place was kind of marketed as an equine community. It was perfect because my husband could golf and I could ride. I have some questions in my mind. They don't necessarily need to be answered, but I want the members to think about these things. I can't help but wonder, is this more a resort community than a retirement community? Who is the board really representing? Whose interests do they have in mind? I wish that there were more members voting, because right now, the resort, Wyndham, pretty much has the majority of the vote, and they even have one appointed board member. That gives them a lot of clout. I also wonder, why has Wyndham sent their guests to Fall Creek Falls to ride rather than here with one of our amenities? Why does Wyndham also cater outside food and beverage rather than using our food and beverage at some of their functions? And are there other things that Wyndham is sending their guests to, like golf and racket sports and such? I'm wondering, why did the board not survey the community about the stables after getting members' input about Druid and the food and beverage operations? These big decisions should not lay in the hands or minds or hearts of a board of 7 people, especially with some of those kind of being more in the majority of the resort favor. So I do ask, how do we get through to the powers that be to reconsider opening the stables? Because it looks like that's still a possibility. How can we, as members, and even the stables serve so many people, not just the members. The community loves the stables. The Wyndham guests love the stables. There's so many events and things that could happen. It could, you know, if it were our amenity, it could be used in so many ways with weddings and parties and standing tall type programs, and with boarding and livery rides. I just can't believe that the board didn't see this as a diamond in the rough and want to keep it.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joe Wind. Live at 463 Beechwood Drive. I also came down here because I own a horse. We came down here in the 90s already, vacationing, because we rode. My husband plays golf, and like everyone else, had to move my horse. I've been here since 2010. I've been at the stables in the beginning of, this was my 15th year here at the stables. The other reason I came up here is because I would like to ask you, on behalf of the community, if you would fix the financials on the website, so the community would have the true picture of what it would really look like in 2025, the correct cost of opening the stables, what the stables really cost. And in 2006, since the financials were so messed up and so wrong that the community has the wrong interpretation of what it costs to run the stables, that would be very helpful. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Carrie Trees, 106 Chestnut Ridge Court. I'm going to try to flow this nice and easy. Real quick, as much as we are very thankful for our police department, I don't know if so many of them are here for recognition or if they're here because the board is concerned with the community's activity today. Second is the buildings. You stated the buildings on the stable property are going to remain, but we know those buildings are in disrepair. So is there a reason they're remaining? Because it doesn't sound like they're going to be maintained. I know you're not answering this, food for thought. Second, thank you, Catherine, for the tennis comment. As a tennis player, I haven't played in a while, but I don't tend to play when pickleball's in there because it's difficult. The decibel level is very unhealthy. So it is very disappointing to know that we're losing yet another tennis court when we no longer have courts in Crossville to play at. There's no place else in Fairfield Glade to play at. These are the only courts anywhere around other than the high school, which is limited access. Oh, okay. Good to know. Thank you. And I also want to circle back to the whole issue of transparency. I do know for a fact, of which the community does not, that there was an additional supplemental statement that was released by the company that did our reserve study that the board has not disclosed to the community. So more information about that will be coming out. So just know that there were other options provided to the community to fund the reserve fund versus an operational reserve fund, which truly doesn't exist in the accounting world. So I just want to say thank you. I did want this on record, but also back to circle back to the bocce courts. That ended up being a complete disaster. A major rehab needed done on that because all the posts needed to be pulled down and steel posts put in. What was, if any, an additional cost to our community above the $300,000+ for 2 bocce courts? That is a question because that was not off the table.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm asking, what is, if any, the additional cost to the bocce court repair?
We'll get to some of these questions after everyone's had a chance to say, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Kate Stoff. I'm the Chief of Police for Fairfield Glade Police Department. I've heard some comments, ma'am, thank you for yours, and some other ones. So I want to explain why we're here and why there are so many here. Yes, we were asked to be here for public safety, and this is our job to serve our community, make sure everyone here is safe and cordial through the meeting. Now, on that, it is very imperative that our officers receive an extensive training and they are aware of how all operations are done here in Fairfield, including the political side of our workshops and our board meetings. So behind you, we have 2 new recruits, who is Officer Myrick and Officer Freeman. They are new recruits here. They are currently in their field evaluation training program. Accompanying them is their FTO, which stands for their field training officer. So yes, they have to be accompanied by a field training officer during their training period before they are solo officer. So for this meeting, it was imperative for me that they observe this so they understand the operations, the concerns of the people that they're going to serve, so they can serve you the best way possible and they know how the operations work. So if you have concerns of the amount of officers that are here or any other operations with the police department, I advise you please come speak to me personally. I have an open door policy, and I just want to make the clarification of why we're here and what our purpose is, and we're not here for intimidation or coercion purposes. Does that clear up any questions or concerns that you have? Thank you. Yes. Thank you, board, for letting me address them.
My name's Tommy Sharp, 240 Lakewood Drive. We've lived here since 17, used the stables one time. Always liked the idea that they were there. Transparency is everything. It really is. I mean, you all know what you've done, why you've done it, and how you've gone about it. And it's shameful. It is an embarrassment to this community. It really is. And each of you know exactly what you've done. I mean, the financials, these prices on items, anybody, a 16-year-old child could look at the price of the bucket that Joe and know this is crazy. I mean, you're worse than our government. You really are. It truly is an embarrassment, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. We depend on you. Although Wyndham does have the deciding vote in these elections because of how the system's set up, the representatives that are voted are supposed to represent the residents, not Wyndham. It's shameful. To take the stables, a money-making business, and shut it down for no apparent reason. Nobody's given me a reason for what they're going to close down. I mean, are you truly falling behind on back on these false financials? I mean, really, it's obvious. No reason has there been given that sustains shutting down the stables. They're a profit-making business. And what I understand, that even with the rent that was paid into Wyndham from the renter, Mr. Cannon, there was no maintenance done over these last few years by the committee. Zero. So why is that? And you say we don't have any plans for this land. Now, you know, again, you know, I'm pushing 70. I wasn't born yesterday. Does that mean right now, today, nothing's been approved? Or you've not discussed anything and you're just waiting until this is effective to announce it? I mean, it's just ludicrous to think that no plans to use that land has been made, but yet you're shutting down a profitable business. Not just profitable, a gem, as has been said, to the community, not just to Fairfield Glade, but to the residents around the area, to children. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. And none of you have given us anything to make us believe that it makes sense. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Even if you aren't in the planning of it, you are our representative, and you should report it to us. You have that responsibility to us. As community, as country, as Christians, you owe it to be honest and upholding. Thank you.
My name is Joe Schwartz. I live at 31 Dillon Lane, and we moved here because my wife has her horses here, or had them here. But I have a question before the stables question. In the budget presentation last week, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, seems like a long time ago, there's a page about operating results, and it said the fire department budget in 2024 is about $192,000, and these are expenditures. The 24 projection, was $177,000, and in 2025 we're going down to $165,000. So I want to know why everybody's telling us the fire department is so important to us, how we support their activities, and in the years of inflation that we have coming in 2025, why our budget is down so low. I forgot I sent by an email, so I thought we'd have an open discussion on budgets today. But that is a question I'd like to have an answer for, but obviously budgets aren't high. Also, there's, I'm going to say, Bruce, under your breath comment at the budget meeting about the fire hydrants. So I was wondering what that is, because nobody has ever, I've never heard what that means about the fire hydrants. I've heard rumors, but not the fact of what's going on with the fire hydrants. So do I get answers?
We'll look at those things after everyone's had a chance to speak.
Okay, so you'll make comments when you want to. Okay. So now, on the stables, I'm an accountant. I work numbers. I work financial statements. I'm not a CPA like our new Jason, but I've been doing taxes and income and doing financial statements since 1980. I know what a financial statement is. And if I ever try to do a tax return or present a financial statement like this to a bank for a loan for my clients that has zero income, we'd be laughed off the face of the earth. It's an insult to the members not to have income in the financial statements that you use. Not to have income in the financial statements you use to make a decision of this significance. That's an insult to everybody, and you should prepare it. So as a sidelight, I'd like to know what kind of financials were prepared for the bocce ball court. The stables were told we can't ever see the money. Bruce Horn said we can never get a reasonable return on the investment to pay for those capitals. So I want to know how we can make $370,000 on the bocce ball court.
Nico Sergio, 62 Brummel Lane, Fairfield Glade. I've been a member since April of 2005. In the 2022 annual membership minutes dated September 16th, 2022, it states, the Board of Directors prepared a request for proposal and distributed it to a number of consulting firms familiar with the strategic planning in the club industry. In 2024, the strategic plan contains no future plans for the community club stables. In essence, the board decided in 2022 that the stables had no future in Fairfield Glade. In March of 2023, the board passed a motion to hire Hart Property Advisors to prepare a reserve study. The final study released in 2024 shows no funds being spent on the stables from 2024 through 2053. Again, the board pre-decided the stables had no future in Fairfield Glade. Moving on. This is a different topic. This is about the Druid Hills project budget. The latest census figures I found on the World Wide Web for Fairfield Glade are 9,635 and 9,768. Board members have repeatedly stated over the past 3 years that the majority of members support the Druid Hills project. If that is true, why are there not 4,800 to 5,000 members here today stating that they support the Druid Hills project budget? Thank you. I'm going to give these to you, Pat.
Okay, thank you. Go, come on, Vicki.
Good morning. My name is Gail Hagenbach, and I own 300 Marmaduke. I don't know if this is going to be helpful, but I feel I need to try. Clearly, we have a very different perspective on what transparency is. So I want to tell you a couple stories. I grew up in a small farm town in the northern Appalachians. We elected a guy, Bob, who wasn't the sharpest tack in the toolbox, but he had a sincere desire to serve his community. One day, a fire broke out in a downtown building, and at the end of putting out the fire, the hoses sprung leaks. This was very upsetting. So at the next town council meeting, Bob proposed a resolution that 3 days before the next fire, we would inspect the fire hoses. Now, before we get too hard on old Bob, the council unanimously approved it. They approved it out of a desire to serve the community, to keep it safe. That was their job. But they realized, not too long after, that they based that resolution on a faulty idea. Faulty. Just as fabricated financials are faulty data on which to make a decision. And here's the next story. Another Bob was the game warden in our town, and my dad was his apprentice. One day, Bob said, "We're going to Scratcher Young's house. I know he's poaching, hunting out of season." So they went to Scratcher's house, and he said, "Scratcher, I need you to open your freezer." Scratcher goes, "Sure," thinking beef and venison look too much alike. He's not going to get anything on me. When they got to the freezer and unwrapped a piece of meat, Bob reached into his pocket and brought out a little vial. And he said, "Scratcher, this is a new secret formula from the Department of Agriculture, and it reacts only to venison. If I drop this on your meat and it reacts, we know what that means." He pulled the dropper out of the vial, put it on the meat, and it fizzed up. Scratcher hung his head. He said, "You got me." When they left the house, my dad said, "I never heard anything about a new secret formula. I didn't see it on memos. I didn't see it on reports." And Bob said, "Look, Bill, Scratcher's been getting more and more blatant about his off-season hunting. He's bragging about it. And it's eroding the faith of the community in our ability to keep things fair and in order. This kind of blatant disregard is going to spread, and it's not good for the community. I don't have a secret formula in this bottle. It's hydrogen peroxide. I did it because the community needed it." Going back to the town council, they reversed their decision because they realized it was a faulty one. There's always time. There is always time to reverse something that's based on faulty data. We don't know what's going to happen to that land, but whether there's a plan or not, whether we believe that or not, that land in reality right now exists. It is not a plan in someone's mind. It is not a plan on a piece of paper. In reality, it is here now. And with regard to the story about the game warden, we are going down a rabbit hole here. The stable is an example. The lady who spoke about tennis and pickleball is an example of what is happening to our inability to discuss, to trust. That does no good for any of us. You, us. Can we start to fix this? Can we start to have real conversations? Can we hold meetings that we set up and not have them canceled over and over and over? We can do this. We can make this right. We can work together. This is our community. Let's start acting like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Courier, 112 Bent Oak Terrace. I've lived here for 18 years. The reason I convinced my husband, who is now deceased, to move here was for the stables. I grew up in the city of Detroit, and from as long as I can remember, I asked for a pony for Christmas and birthday. I never got one. I felt I had horses here. My daughter and I love to ride. I rode several times a year here. It was a place that I could go, especially after losing my son and my husband, to go and make peace with life, kind of get centered, being with those large, gentle animals, looking in their eyes, petting their little velvet noses. It was a place that I could go and find peace. That's taken away. I had time to read this sign here. Somebody has taken time to come up with 10 items. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 definitely need to be reviewed by each and every one of you. The main thing is transparency, maintaining community standards and safeguard and everything. That's all good. But maintaining socially and intellectually vibrant lifestyle for residents. We don't all golf. We don't all pickleball. And now bocce? How many people are going to be going to play bocce? What, 12 people? Are the kids allowed to go play bocce ball? We need to maintain what made Fairfield Glade beautiful, and the stables is one of them. And shame on all of you for making this decision. You set aside a board to go and really figure out what was going on there. From what I understand, a dime was not spent in the last 16 years there. Shame on all of you. You're taking away a huge part of Fairfield Glade. And I've been here 18 years. I'm ashamed of you.
Hello, my name's Don Giegerick. I live at 310 Stonehenge. And here not to talk about the stables, but raise questions since I've only been here 3 years. Questions about the overall reserves of the accounting system, which I heard reported today was about $6 million. And I've been involved with other POAs, much smaller than Fairfield Glade, where we've had $3–4 million of reserves to cover the swimming pool and some sidewalk and general areas. So I have major concerns about the overall reserve process. It is very encouraging to hear that the board is having a reserve study done. And with that is really just a starting point. I think there has to be serious review of the reserve process so that areas like the stables, the pickleball, the golf courses, you know, I've heard today about places that have left to go in disrepair. So there needs to be really a concerted effort, I think, to take a hard look at the reserve studies so that we can not be left in a situation we have now with stables that are left in disrepair or other facilities, to try to plan ahead and work hard at planning out and really have reserves in place. And there is a process to do that, because I've been involved with boards where you have reserve studies and you have projects earmarked so that if there is a pump at the pool that needs to be replaced on a 15-year basis, there is a process to plan for those type of things, just like a roof on a stable. Okay, so those things need to be planned for. I think the board should take a hard look at this new reserve study that comes in, so that that can be a starting point for trying to plan these things out a little better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have two more quick items. My name is Patty Vilhauer. I was on the stable committee. We asked to see the lease with John Cannon because we were concerned, just like a lot of people said, about the condition of the property, the barns. We wanted to know who's responsible for those repairs and maintenance. We didn't get to see it. We wanted to know, was John the one who needed to do the fixing, or was Fairfield? We never saw the lease, even though we asked to see it. The other item is, it was stated that there were potential renters, leasees. There was, I think, 4 total. This gentleman from Fall Creek Falls was ghosted. He never got a chance to talk to anybody about either taking it over as a leasee or potentially as a professional renter. There was 2 other people that inquired about the property, managing it or being a leasee. They didn't walk away. One of them actually came to the meeting on November 19th and said she was still interested in possibly taking over as a leasee or as a professional manager. She kind of was ghosted too. She never heard anything back. And the other one, same thing. She talked to I don't know who, but those 2 ladies both said, we came away with the impression, it was just their impression, it was never explicitly stated, but they came away with the impression the stables were closing. And this was back like in April or May, possibly even June, but they had the impression the stables was closing because it cost too much money when those figures weren't even out there. I find that very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Ratcliffe, 157 Devonshire Drive. So this comment's related to the stables. I have no, you might say, I'm not a part of this fight one way or another. I see the decisions, both sides. What I'm most concerned about is the process, or better way to frame it, the lack thereof. This process, whether it's the stables in how we go about evaluating it, whether it's pickleball down the road and expanding it, whether it was bocce ball. What is the process that this board will go through on each and every amenity? And I take that to start with, we heard the budget presentation. In the budget presentation, under major capital projects, we have Racquetball Center slated to spend $300,000 in 2025 and another $300,000 in 2026. Now, one, I don't know what that is, and the reason I don't know what that is you put it in the budget, you put it on the slide, and tomorrow you're going to vote on it. You're going to vote on it with no explanation. Let me give you another example. We're going to spend, under major capital projects, again, in the budget, on the slide, no explanation at the budget meeting. If there was, I'm sorry I missed it, and I'll go back to the tape to look at it. Core Master Plan Study, $100,000 in 2025, $500,000 in 2026. You again will vote on that tomorrow. It'll just get lumped into the vote. And then down the road, we'll start hearing about it after you've already spent the money. That's part of the process, and I believe that has to change. So, Greg, that's my comments as it regards to the stable. I do have questions. You directed questions for financials. So I have questions now. I don't know if it's going to reflect in my 2 minutes or not. So in the financials, I'm going to try a different approach, Bill, this month. And my question to you would be on food and beverage. What questions are you asking in those financials this month of Bobby Jones? What struck you in those financials that you're going to pose to Bobby Jones? And I believe he can answer right now. There's no gag order on him right now.
Well, I want to make sure that everyone's had an opportunity to ask all their questions or make their comments. So we're going to get through all the comments. We'll pick up on some of these questions then. Okay? It's not.
It just doesn't flow, Greg. And to change the meeting in midstream, because you've been handling it differently all this year. I don't know if this gentleman, by the way, is the attorney and he told you to do it this way or not, but.
Please get on with your questions.
The answer to the question will take and precipitate some other questions or not. But there are a number of items, Bill, then I'm just going to give you my take. I'm going to go like I usually do.
Why don't you submit those to me in an email?
I'm doing it so.
I can give you.
I'm doing it so the members.
I'm trying to be fair. I understand. That's what I'm going to.
So the cost of sales this past month was 49.95%. Way different than what it normally is. Now, if you've reviewed the financials, since you go with Bobby Jones, you have already known that. The payroll and all those were another 45%. So in total, 95% of sales for Stonehenge, this is Stonehenge, for the month were in those two line items. How can you operate? And again, we're going to be operating a restaurant down the road, much bigger and so forth. So if we can't and don't understand how this one is running, what makes us think we can make the next one run profitably? Or at least minimize any loss? Bill, question to you, and you can go ahead and answer it down the road. I'd like to know who's responsible for the maintenance of the Stonehenge and the grills. Is it us or Bobby Jones? And if the answer is Bobby Jones, or excuse me, if the answer is us, what is your team doing monthly to inspect facilities and keep from having situations like we have at Stonehenge now? Scott, you asked already beforehand my question. It's just for the members that I'm repeating it, so I'm doing it for a purpose, so I apologize. My usual question, the comments section that was released with our financial statements this month. For those members that don't see them, we get an explanation. I take those explanations when I read them to be things that are important that the members should know. In there, we talk about golf and where it's at from a revenue side through the end of February. And again, we talk about rounds of golf, like we usually every month we've been doing. And I ask the question every month. I'm going to ask it again this month. We talk about rounds being behind, yet year to date, on the golf report, we are ahead of budget by 1,448 rounds through October. It doesn't compute. I don't understand, again, for umpteenth month in a row, why there's differences, okay? So that'll be an answer to come. And then finally, Jason, for you, the question would be based on October, and we've got to be fairly close to having November's numbers in. The POA and amenity projection that was shown us at the budget meeting, where we were going to finish down about $11,000 to our projection, our budget, where we're going to end up as a loss with POA and amenities. In 2 months, are we on track with that number through, does it look like we're going to hit it? Because there's a swing basically between the next 2 months. Those next 2 months, that swing is going to be $200,000. If I take October numbers and I take what you told us we'll finish with at the end of the year. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Hi, Sue Taylor, 145 Meadowview. Are you later on in this meeting going to answer questions that we ask other than stables?
It's going to be a matter of how detailed the questions are, because we don't bring all the details here for a long conversation about detailed answers.
Okay.
So if they're very detailed answers, we're going to ask you to send them in.
Well, it's about the budget, about Stonehenge.
Make a comment.
Okay. Year-to-date, loss, Stonehenge only, year-to-date actual, Stonehenge lost $416,056. Year-to-date last year, they lost $107,254. How did we lose $309,000 this year? Now, at one meeting, I got in trouble because I quoted the wrong person that stated this. There was a mention of theft. Has anything, 300,000 is a lot of theft, but how do we get to this number? What is Bobby Jones doing? And it's going to be worse with Stonehenge closed all month during the holiday season when families come in. Where do we go to eat? I know and they've known about this problem a long time. Okay, that's another thing. But how do we lose $300,000 in 10 months? More than last year.
Okay. We'll
Nothing?
take that up.
Fair question.
No.
Okay.
Can I get an answer?
Well,
an idea?
I want to make sure,
That's a
just like I
detailed
told
question,
Tom, I want to make sure everyone has a chance to speak.
Okay.
And then we'll
So
address
if I
them.
hang around, I'm going to get an idea?
Well, we'll see where we are. Okay?
Transparency.
Anyone else that wants to speak?
Good morning. Patricia Chambers, 103 Henning Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for serving, because it's a thankless job. However, listening to all these people, this is really upsetting. This lady said it beautifully. We got a problem, an atmosphere problem, and it's just like the atmosphere in our government, and it shouldn't be. My main concern with the stables is that man, Dale, who wanted to take over the lease of the stables. If we had somebody that wanted to take it over, why didn't somebody talk to this fellow? Why not? So I'd like an answer to that.
I'll speak to that. I'll speak to that. That man was not known. I again got here in May, okay, late April. I observed and participated in the stables process that was already underway. But this board, that gentleman allegedly, spoke with Bob Weber. There is no record. I have asked Pat, and she repeatedly since I've been here, are there any records of anyone that spoke to the former general manager or on file about proposals or things that they wanted to do relative to the stables? I could not find any record. I did not know of this man's name until Keith Robinson called Greg Jones and told him about this man. Greg Jones had never heard of Dale Hankins before, nor had I or anyone else on this board. I reached out to Dale Hankins, and I met with him on Monday afternoon along with Sam McAdoo. And we are having a conversation. And that's all I can tell you. But had I known, or this board known, of this man's existence and interest, and even he is gauging his interest as a businessman, and he has his own business model that he is considering and has agreed to come back to us. Day one was not necessarily a deal killer in his mind, but he has further exploration that he needs to do. And I am being as open to you and as honest as I always will and pledged when I first got here, that I will have a conversation with this gentleman, and that information will be shared with the board and with you at the appropriate time based on where those conversations lead. That's all I can tell you. Those are facts, and he works 7 days a week. His daughter is part of the operation of his business. He worked he was hired by the state of Tennessee to operate Fairfield Fall Creek Falls, stables, as well as the one at Lebanon. The state of Tennessee, for whatever reason, and he said it was funding, is getting out of stables operations. They have canceled him at Lebanon, and they canceled him at Fall Creek Falls. But they gave him an opportunity to have land across from the park. And he is now attempting to run his own business under the name Fall Creek Falls. But the state of Tennessee closed those operations as well at both locations. So again, this will be looked at. He is a businessman, and he will come back and let us know whether or not what he finds out as we go forward.
All right,
Okay?
that's
I'm going to add
wonderful.
on one other thing to that. When Keith called me, Dale had already called me, and we talked, and I told him that I had to get back with the general manager and a couple board members to see how we could set up a meeting, which I did. And I had never heard of the man before that day. And I've been on the board since 2021, and I have no knowledge of any kind of conversation he had with anyone. There's nothing that I recall, and I look back to my notes and everything from prior board meetings, that anything came to the board on that. So I really don't know. He may have talked to Bob, it may have been somebody else. I don't know who the man talked to. And he didn't tell me.
We just found out it was 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks, and we met with him Monday.
Yeah,
That was the earliest he was available.
Yeah, I was there with him, and yeah, I mean.
My understanding as well is there were 2 other equestrian business folks that also pulled out. So, again. Okay.
Well, give us their names.
Well,
give us their names.
Okay,
And I, as the general manager, have not heard from any of them since I have been here.
okay, then you'll get their names.
I'm just telling you, I've heard from this gentleman. And again, I'm not here, I'm stating facts. I'm not making promises, anything. That is not my role. Let me be clear. Let me.
I'm sorry, what?
There was a committee formed for the stables. Did you consult them on if there were any offers?
There was a steering committee.
Yes, the first I interact, the only, the committees, well, I mean, I'll speak the fact, the committee made their recommendation to the board at a meeting in July.
Not to close the stables,
And
to keep the stables.
again, I'm not saying that, I'm not, I don't vote. I'm not on the board. I am your general manager. I'm an employee. I'm your chief operating officer. We advise, we do what we do. The board had that information. The board had the recommendation. Again, it's a recommendation. And we are where we are
Okay.
today. We are where we are today.
I believe I have the
That's all.
floor.
You're getting too far into this.
Stand up
That's
and
all.
talk behind me. One last thing. If this stables situation, if you're going to close it, is based on financials, our last speaker just said that the food service lost goobles of money. Why not close that? I don't understand the process. So I think that if you're making a decision on financials alone on this stables, the committee did come up with a wonderful plan, and they were going to be profitable by 2025. So, and one last thing, and then I'm out of here. I don't understand why you can close an amenity for this area without the vote, which probably wouldn't even matter because Wyndham outvotes us anyway, but without a vote of the membership. This is unbelievable to me. And boy, I know y'all are in the hot seat, but I think you need to listen to all of these people, and you need to reconsider. And I think it's really sad that some people, if we do reopen these stables, which I hope you do, these people have already relocated their horses, and that's going to be a gigantic problem for them to bring them back. But one other thing, they can do so many more activities at that barn than just residents riding trails. There's so many more other things. And maybe the committee, and I'm sure they've come up with lots of ideas and stuff, but there are a lot of other ideas that could be put forth to that committee to make money in this situation. So I know everything these days is about the God almighty dollar, and it can happen with the stables. Please reopen them, or send it to the membership to vote on it. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Okay, is there?
I would just like to point out one thing. The membership here, the group that's together here, took a lot of time, a lot of thought into what they were going to say today. And one of the things was these signs that have been posting or showing out to the audience. I would like to make sure that you all see the signs for the support of a lot of the people that are here today, asking for you to reconsider. Just like this lady says, in our community, maybe we can back up. Maybe we can admit there were problems in some of the financials, or that everything wasn't taken into consideration, and we can back up and say, okay, let's make sure we do it right this time, and then we can make a decision. So these are
Okay.
Okay, Greg.
We're hearing the same people 3 or 4 times now.
Can I reply to Trish? Those items were in the report that the stable committee gave to the board of directors, other possible uses of the property. Again, there could be private parties, a standing tall type program, a program for veterans, play dates, all kinds of potential income. That was included on the report that the stable committee submitted.
And all of that material, including the recommendation from the committee, is all posted on the website for any member to see.
Incorrect information.
Hello, my name is Jean Geib. I'm a 12-year resident. And I live on Doyle Court. And as you know, I've been attending these meetings for about 10 years, both the workshops and the meetings, so I feel pretty well directly informed on things. I'm not commenting about the stables. Bill, I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it or not. I think you've added 2 project managers to the staff. Is that correct? Can you answer that?
One of the senior project manager is Greg Reppert. He has been on staff. He was made senior project manager. It's not a new, he was already existing, and then a junior project manager was hired, correct?
Okay. I'm guessing this is adding to the payroll. You say the one gentleman was here, so that's probably not a change or not a significant change. Adding another one, I'm guessing, is, I don't know, 70 to 90,000. That's just a guess. What about the Major Capital Projects Committee? Were they not able to handle things related to that? Or?
They're a committee, they're not employees.
Okay.
And I've never seen a property of this size in my history or my experience that would not have a project manager or a project management team on their staff.
So you just felt there was something lacking?
I think it's the best business practice, yes.
Okay.
And the board agreed with that, by the way.
Okay. Scott,
Yes.
a few months ago, when I questioned the fact that there's no meeting minutes from the Governmental Relations Committee,
Yeah.
you indicated that the meetings were confidential for many reasons, and I understand that. But you said you would put something out there. I still haven't seen anything.
Yeah, we've had very few meetings, but you're right. I have not put anything out there because
Okay.
we've had a lot of cancellations, and some of them have been with Mayor Foster, which, other than me being out stating that we're meeting with Mayor Foster, there's not much I can put in the meeting minutes for that, but you're
Okay.
right.
All right. This one is of great concern to me. I don't know what you can share, but I think you're all aware that we're in a water crisis. I've attended the Cumberland Plateau Water Authority meetings since their inception 2 years ago. And their new general manager mentioned that the lake that supplies Fairfield is down about 10 feet, and we're probably weeks away from a serious situation. This was confirmed by other people at the meeting. They need both a short-term solution and a long-term solution. I don't know what should be put out to the community, but I don't think most people are aware of this. I don't know if there's a way that we could all somehow conserve water. I'm just bringing it to the attention of people because it's a serious situation. And Fairfield keeps building homes every year, putting more of a drain, and 100 extra homes every year. I kind of question, should we be doing that until the water situation is resolved?
Well, let me address a couple of those things.
Okay.
One is Greg Hansen, who's the chairperson of that committee.
Yes.
Is on our Governmental Relations Committee. And
Yes.
he attends. And we talk about that issue on a fairly regular basis. Less than a month ago, I can't remember the exact week, but we went out, a couple of us, I was there, to talk to the general manager of Crab Orchard, which is where we get our water. And what I would tell you, we were talking about that. He did not raise any concerns at that point.
Are you talking about Everett Bolin?
Exactly. And we talked about the water needs and that type of thing. We even got into some conversations around development, things like that. He did not indicate any concerns to us, so I don't know what the new GM, that GM's only been here a couple of weeks, I think.
Everett Bolin also confirmed to me that we're in,
really?
yes,
Okay.
that we're
Well, that's
getting into
interesting
a
because-
severe crisis mode.
Because when we talked about it, typically, and I don't know, I was a little surprised myself, is most communities I live in, if it gets to be a crisis, typically the water company will send something out to all users and saying, hey, conserve your water.
Right.
And we have not seen anything like that.
Maybe we could ask Greg Hansen, who's a community member and the chairman of that committee, to come and talk to us, to share some information with us. I would really appreciate that, because I do have serious concerns. And the last thing, I'm sorry for my list, I didn't know this was going to be such a busy day. Sam McAdoo is the Director of Community Affairs, and his monthly report shows how many homes are being built. There's many things that fall under his purview. I would think he'd have a lot more to share at meetings. Is there some way you could maybe talk to him and see if there's other issues he could talk about at the meetings? Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Gail Hagenbach, 300 Marmaduke. I'll be quick. Thank you, Mr. General Manager, for sharing with us that there are some discussions taking place with a possible new leasee. We understand and accept that you cannot make any promises. We understand and accept that you can't give details. But what you're giving us is a glimmer of hope that we are starting to look forward and not digging in our heels on a decision that has been made. As far as having no knowledge of contact with interested parties previously, we have to accept that at face value. But here's the rabbit hole we're going down. We don't 100% believe it. Because the record keeping, I have to go back to stables record keeping, that's my interest. The financials were fabricated. We know that. Everybody knows that. And that is where the trust is eroding, because we don't believe we really know what drove the decision. That's where the rubber is hitting the road. And we want to trust our board, and we want you to trust us. We want mutual respect. So thank you, Mr. General Manager, for giving that to us today. And I hope, given what you've heard from all of us and the work that the stable committee did, that you would consider actively pursuing a way to keep the stables open with another leasee, because the potential there is huge. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, all right. Then we're going to move on. I don't know, and if Bruce, Jason, if you guys don't have the information, well, let's go through our agenda here. Lot committee status sales.
The
Microphone, Bruce.
Are we on? Okay. The November numbers were voluntary lot transfers back are 4. The FGCC lots sold were 3 for October and 8 for November. And the lot mergers were a total of 3. So lot sales year to date are 71.
One of the reports, and I think you guys get it, is what's happening with the amended reserve fees. And we're trying to track that. As you well know, we changed those last spring, actually summer, started on July 1st. And the concern is, of course, is what's happening with those amenity reserve fees. Are we keeping up to where we were, or are we seeing a fallback in terms of sales and that type of thing? And in the report, the most recent one that we just have here, we're actually doing a little bit better on home sales and lot sales than we were last year at this time. Matter of fact, if you take a look at just the statistics, we're up about 30 of those sales, mainly in the A1s and residences. So it's not impacting us in a negative way. It's actually impacting us in a positive way. So we're going to continue to track that, so we know that the amenity reserve fees are coming in, because that's a big part of our 10-year capital plan.
Greg, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You said we're up 30. Over what time period?
That's year over year.
Year over year.
Mm-hmm. And if you just take a look at the month over month, it's really about, we're up about 12, okay? So I had to do quick math there. But the good news is that we're tracking in a good manner, not a bad manner, and a lot of the concerns that people had are just not showing up yet. We're going to, like I said, we're going to continue to watch it, but right now we're doing well.
It's all increasing.
Okay?
Lot merger?
Yep, lot merger policy.
The, as I stated last month, we reposted the lot merger for clarification of wording, because there's some wording in there that relates to definitions of adjacent versus combined versus a merge. So we added the language for that the county uses for definitions.
So the lot merger policy was updated and reposted. No additional information was there, but for clarification, to make sure that what people were looking at was consistent with the language throughout the county and Fairfield. It was reposted. To date, we have not heard any comments back from the policy, and we had had one the previous month. So that policy is ready for adoption, and we will vote on that.
Okay. I'm going to make a comment. I'm sorry, I can't remember the person that talked about the reserve study. Okay. The reserve study that we have was done in 2023. It was given to the community in July, August timeframe. So it's done. And for 2024, this year and going out years, that study is about 290 pages. And you can go out, it's posted on the member website, you can see it with all the details in there. We have used that study for 2024 budgeting processes. We're using it, we used it again for 2025. And if you take a look at our 10-year plan expenditures, you will see that the reserve study is in there every year for the next 10 years. So that is available to you right now. And the goal is, where we came to a funding mechanism, is that by the end of year 10, we should be at a 52% reserve study percentage. So that's already all been done. So we're not looking at this for the first time. We look at it every year when we budget. It doesn't stay static, as you can probably appreciate, because we have to have people look at both what is in that study and really what we need to get done. And then we have to take all those things that we think we need to get done, and we need to make sure we move them in the correct bucket of either operations or capital. And we do that religiously now for the last 2 years, and we'll continue to do that. Now, at some point, we're going to have to refresh that study because we have assets coming on board all the time. So we'll continue to be looking at that, and I don't know, probably 2026 or some date like that, we'll probably have to refresh that study. But it's a part of our DNA now, and that study that was done in 2023 was the first reserve study that's ever been done, to my knowledge, here. And the board at that point understood exactly what you were saying. Things get out of disrepair. They're not where they should be in terms of their quality, because people don't look at that on a regular basis. And now we've got that as part of our process. Now, it's going to be difficult for a while because there are a lot of sins of the past that we have to make up for. So we're looking at all that stuff, and it is part of the study. But you can go out, you can look at it, it's all right there, and help yourself to it, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Mr. Schwartz, could you clarify a question on the fire department budget for me? I got you had a question about the fire hydrants, but what was the other part of your question?
Can you come up here, because people can't hear you.
My wife never heard me either. So I was referring to the page from the budget. Is it on?
You just have to be close to it.
Yeah, just have to be close.
Okay, there we go. So I was referring to the page from the presentation headed POA operating results. And on that, there's a line for the fire department. And the 2024 budget is about $192,000. The 2024 projection is about $177,000, and which means we're spending less money than budgeted. And then the 2025 budget is $165,000. So again, less money is being spent for the fire department.
Yeah, and I'll have to get some detailed answers on it, but traditionally, the fire department gives us the budget, and traditionally it goes up about $1,000 a month. As far as the fire hydrant contracts?
Yeah, nobody knows what that, if I might jump on the lady who made a comment about McAdoo's report, the first time I ever heard anything about a fire hydrant is the chief made an offhanded comment when I did a tour of the fire station.
Yeah.
And then Bruce made an offhanded comment the other day at the budget meeting. That might be the kind of thing, somehow get those little reports. You don't have to give it, in my opinion, you don't have to let's get on the nitty-gritty, but just say, hey, we're having to do this because of this reason why.
Yeah,
But
so do you
yes,
have a
to know
specific question about the hydrants?
Yeah,
that I can
just
answer for you?
what it's doing to our budget.
So traditionally, the fire department had a hydrant crew that inspects all the hydrants.
That's what I
right?
understood, yes.
So a decision was made that we now contract with somebody to inspect all the hydrants, give us information about the type of flow and different things. So that's what we've done, is created a contract to test and inspect and report and give information on the hydrants.
So how much,
crew would
okay,
be.
how much were we paying the fire department to do that? Our spending?
Well, I'm not going to get into, I have to get into the specifics, but
Then how much is the contract?
the contract is what?
Private contract?
It's about $33,000.
$33,000.
Well, then
And that-
somebody,
and that-
somebody ought to talk with the chief
that
because he's
was-
talking 6 digits.
That was mentioned
6 digits?
explicitly
Yes.
at the budget presentation.
No, it was not mentioned
Yes, sir, it was,
explicitly.
because it was asked as a
No.
question.
We'll get clarification
But
from the chief. Chief and I
it was
talked, yeah, I'm sure.
The money, all that happened was that contract moved on this side of the table instead of in the
But see, when you
budget
do
that we
this,
give to the-
when you made the offhand, I'm going to call it an underbreath comment about the fire hydrants.
Okay.
And then the budget is less for the fire department this year, it tends to imply that we're not supporting the fire department like we have in the past, and now we're moving something to another category that's not fire department. So that's what it implies, and when you do a summary, you get into trouble like that. Now, I'm not saying you needed to have a 900,000-page slide presentation, but when you're missing the details, stuff gets lost in this summary.
Yeah.
And that's what I was really after is how much money is it costing us, or are we saving? Where the fire hydrant clearance is.
We've
I'm not
talked
worried,
about,
just one more second before I forget. I'm not worried about the part I also feel the firemen learn something about the neighborhoods as they're out there cleaning the hydrants. That's a non-financial cost, I'll call it, but I was interested in the financial implications of changing the way hydrants are taken care of.
The bottom line is that the support really for the fire department, when you take a look at the contract on the hydrants and what we did in terms of increasing the yearly stipend we give them, or grant, I should say, or contribution, I should say, it actually went up.
yeah. And we've talked about there's in-kind services that Sam McAdoo provides. One of the things we've talked about is getting a total picture for you to see all the contributions, whether in-kind or whether financial, whatever they may be for the fire department.
And that's one of the problems we have. As long as I have the microphone, I'll keep it for 2 minutes. But that's one of the problems we have, is you're having to look at financial information and everything else. You got everybody on NDAs. Nobody does a reporting of what goes on in a committee. So like, for example, your committee could just say, we had a meeting, Greg Foster was there, and everything we talked about was confidential.
All right, I was just getting clarification on your fire question.
But I'm saying for this kind of thing, if we know something more without violating confidentiality, it lets the membership know what we're doing.
I hear you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, Sam, go ahead. Mike, Sam, Mike.
I gently put it down.
In regards, I am not affiliated with the fire department in any way. I am Sam McAdoo, the Director of Community Maintenance. I am not affiliated with the fire department in any way, shape, or form. I don't deal with their budget. But I can tell you that when I repaired the fire department does not hydrant previously, I billed that to the fire department. So the fact that it will not be billed to the fire department any longer will have an effect on their budget. That didn't come out of their money, it was just, that's accounting wise, we billed it to that department. Please stop me if I say something wrong.
Oh, we will.
So if you've got a number of hydrant repairs that are done throughout the year, and then all of a sudden you don't have to report those repairs anymore under that particular department, that department's expenses and budget is going to go down. That is all I know about the fire department. I am bringing those repairs in 2025 in-house, meaning under my budget. So if you look at my budget, you're going to see that it goes up. Now, there's a lot of finger pointing, and I don't want to get real deep. There's a lot, but a lot of, you're going to look at it and say, oh my goodness, Sam's budget went up. But that's, and here's why it went up. And then the assumptions start coming. But I will show anybody, to the best of my ability, anything that they want. But in the case of the fire department, I contracted the repairs, I got the repairs done, they were, you know, and they were billed in one area, and it moved to the other. So the
work is still the same.
The work's still the same, it's still done by the same people. It's just that
That is the kind of answer I wanted to know. I wanted to make sure that we have not lost services through the fire department. And that's the kind of stuff that could have been a footnote on the budget report that said stuff's being classified differently in this year. That's the kind of thing we need to know, and that will help the membership not thinking you're hiding everything.
Well, and
I was not picking on Sam. I was just trying to find out what the appearance
Go ahead,
was
take
that
him
we're
on.
spending less money on the fire department.
Sam?
Okay.
A couple things, if I could, to follow up on this question. First of all, going into 2025, I, as your general manager, will be continuing Breakfast with Bill, that format, to be open and available to discuss operational matters. Sometimes it's the previous Breakfast with Bills that I had. They were attended. We limit it, obviously, for reasons due to the cost and so forth, because it's the nature of the format. I will say the tendency of the questions tended to be board questions, but I will make myself available again, and I'm also willing to encourage and support regular town meetings to have an ongoing dialogue about things that are on your mind outside of these meetings, because there are, I think, that a lot to try to cram into these meetings at times. I feel, from transparency and in fairness to staff and the board, many of your questions you have are detailed. And to ask and be put on the spot on a live, in real time about an answer can lead to responses that people hear things differently. I make a suggestion, and I'm just saying this to you, that we will begin to look at perhaps taking those questions, your thoughtful questions, just like we did for the town meetings, and they will be answered and posted on the website and available at the office, wherever, so that everyone is seeing the answer and what is being said and not what they thought they heard, and you're also getting a complete and thoughtful answer. And then those can be followed up. You come to my office, you can reach out to Jace if you need, for Sam, whoever on staff, for further clarification. I'm just saying that to you operationally. So with regards to the questions that were raised earlier, I can speak to the Bobby Jones Links questions. Yes, there are issues with cost of sales and payroll. We've known that. It is what it is. They're under the final year will be upcoming of their contract, and reviews are ongoing. That's what I can say to that. What I will say, though, is when you look at the delta in the numbers, the total revenue this year are not significantly, about not even just a few $1,000s off from last year. So they're relatively running on par. But unfortunately, the cost of sales are not managed at the level that was budgeted. That delta is in the neighborhood of $200,000. Payroll is over budget by about $75,000 year to date, but it's offset by other expenses by $20,000 for a delta of $55,000 there. So the budget, and I've said this all year long, the budget was a bad budget. It was a very high and aggressive budget from a revenue standpoint. Those revenues, it's clear, were not realistic. and we are doing and operating on par with 2023's. That is why the budget for 2025 in food and beverage, which was shared with you at the budget projection, budget presentation meeting, we spoke and worked with Bobby Jones Links in the budget for 2023, which they proved prior they could do and manage, was largely adopted for 2025. The 2024 budget was unrealistic, but that being from a revenue standpoint. And I think even cost of sales are, in my opinion, and there have been changes to the 2025, overly aggressive. I think we've proven it. There's no point in having a 35% cost of sales if you prove over and over you can't make it, because it looks good on paper. And it creates a false bottom line that operations is showing you they can't reach. So why put it in a budget? So that is operationally, yes, there is improvements that need to be made with the cost of sales and with payroll, and Linda James is very aware of it. I think very highly of Linda James. She's been with us for a few months now, and I'm looking forward to working with her next year as well. So I think that was an answer to that.
Well, before you go on with that, I want to add one other thing to it. And we've said this before in prior board meetings. When you take a look at Bobby Jones Link's performance, their contract is for all food and beverage. It's not just Stonehenge. Pick and chew anyone of facilities like Stonehenge. There's different answers in terms of what you should or should not do. But the contract, you've got to look at it in total. And there you see different numbers, okay? And that was one of the reasons why Bobby Jones Lakes insisted on having the snack bars as part of their contract. Because everyone pretty well knows that the snack bars are big money makers. They were, Jeff, when you were running them, right? And they are continuing to be that way. But the contract is really for all of that. And anybody sitting around needs to make sure they understand that.
I was speaking to total food and beverage operation numbers, the final division totals. So,
Okay,
again.
Just so you know, oh, my name again?
No, that's all right. We got you on record.
You guys know me. Just so you know my past, I worked for Borg Warner Corporation. It's a huge automotive dealer. I was their accountant. So I know.
Decatur, Illinois?
In Illinois.
That's where I grew up.
They have several plants in Illinois.
Yeah, I know.
You lived in Decatur?
God, no.
Oh, okay. That gives you a little more credibility, Sue.
Okay, so I will look at food and beverage in total. Actual, that includes snack bars, Stonehenge, private banquets, division total. Actual year-to-date is a loss of $190,619. Prior year-to-date, positive of $279,314, which is a difference of almost $400,000 negative. So basically, that's Stonehenge, pretty well, 100,000 is, 300,000 is Stonehenge. So I am looking at snack bars,
Yeah,
food,
I understand.
everything.
I understand.
So I just don't see any improvement. And I'm scared to death about when Druid Hills is open, because I don't know if that's going to be as successful as you guys are hoping.
Well, again, I want to refer you to a meeting of July 27th, and it's posted out on the members' website. In that meeting, we showed the membership that was there and watching exactly what it's going to take to make Druid Hills Clubhouse successful.
I'm hoping it is.
Well,
believe me.
and it's important, okay, for we as members and the people that spoke to that, I thought were very clear about this. We're telling you what it's going to take. If you go back and take a look at the strategic planning surveys and the other surveys we did, and even the ones that we did through the Druid Hills committees, the membership told us what they wanted. Now it's really, are you going to support it?
I get it. I have one other question.
Yeah.
May I ask who this gentleman is? I think he should have been introduced to us since he's sitting with the board.
Okay, Jonathan, you can tell them who you are.
Sure, my name's...
Whoops,
Jonathan
you
needed
gotta
the
sit
mic.
down and you gotta speak into the mic.
I'm pretty loud, but okay.
They're online too.
They're online though, so.
I got you. My name's Jonathan Hamby. I'm an attorney here in Crossville with Looney, Chadwell, and Hamby. We've represented Fairfield Glade Community Club for many, many decades. So that's who I'm in.
I thought we deserved to know
Sure.
transparency.
Yes.
Who you are.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Caldwell could not be here today. Chadwick.
Tom, come up here.
So Greg, in all due respect to what you just said about Druid Hills, they told us that we had to do 2.8 million in sales. They basically did a break even, that was the break even for the most part, based on some assumptions. And what, because you've made that comment and the board has made that comment many, many times, and you've also said we've got to support it.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, and I get that. It's got to be run effectively, okay? Don't leave that part out, please. It has to be, and that's why I ask the question every month. I understand food and beverage in total. A lot of us get that too. Down the road, this big investment, okay, that's being made in Druid Hills, just like when it was made in Stonehenge years ago. Okay, we made it, we made assumptions, now it's not operating profitably. I'm not saying that Druid Hills has to make 100% profit, but it should be controlled effectively. I think that's the important thing. The survey
About that topic.
well, and that go in the comments, because
Well-
the second part is Bill mentioned about the budget, and I've heard this time and time again, about the budget was made and it was quote unquote a very optimistic, to say the least, budget that was done. Let me just say a couple of things on that. Bobby Jones prepared it, as I understand, and gave it to you guys for review. 5 of you guys, last year at this time, five people, excuse me, on the board, voted for the budget. You approved it. All of a sudden, within a few months, we just raise our hand and say, guess what? It was wrong, and you haven't told me yet. I'm looking at it, as I always ask the questions, who's accountable? That's what gets frustrating. Thank you.
Okay.
What's the next agenda item, Greg? What's the next
You
agenda
guys,
item?
while these people are still here, may I ask just one question, very important, I forgot. In the interest of transparency, who came up with these fabricated numbers? Yes. Where did they come from, and why do you continue to support them? I've asked you, Greg, where are the sources? You would not tell me.
And
I want to know now, where did they
I'm
come
telling you
from?
right now, Jerry, I'm going back to the statement I made at the beginning of the meeting.
And can't you just
We're
ask
not
that
going to
question?
comment on Wildwood Stables.
It's not the stable, it's the numbers. It's not the stables.
It's about Wildwood Stables. We're not going to make any comment.
It has
Do you
to
want-
do-
Do you want me to read this again, or?
No, look, I don't know you want to give me such a hard time.
We're not making comment because of the
Yeah,
legal
because of
situation.
pending litigation.
Yeah.
What pending litigation?
I just told you that,
I want to know, Mr. Attorney, okay?
and based upon the advice of counsel,
I got
it will
that.
for the foreseeable
Greg,
future
stop it,
not
please.
comment on statements and
Stop it.
decisions. Close the
Stop it.
doors.
It's not, has nothing to do with litigation. We want to know, and I've asked before any litigation talk came, where did the numbers come from? I asked Sam, he said the decision was made, he cannot comment. Where on earth did they come from?
We're not going to comment on that today, Jerry.
What happened to transparency, Greg?
The
Well,
threat of litigation.
it's where we are involved with litigation. Okay?
I guess I want to say my other comments.
Just one comment on that. If you would just open and answer questions. There were a lot of questions, and you said, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that
Now,
later.
we'll get to the budget questions and that type of thing.
I hear what you're saying about Wildwood.
We have been contacted by an attorney that is talking about filing.
What about before that? And I understand, but we wouldn't have to get to that level
Well, we're
if you
there
would
now.
answer questions.
We're there
All right,
now.
Greg.
Thank you very much.
Where we're at.
Okay?
No, it's not.
Tom, and I know you're not going to like this, but with all the questions you have, which are fairly detailed, I really think Bill needs to get those in writing so we can adequately answer them. One of the things that we're going to have to stop doing in this room, and this is, you're going to probably argue this is not transparent, but it is transparency. We want to answer questions correctly. And we're going to get out of the mode of trying to answer detailed questions when we don't have all the facts in front of us. And I do like, and we've talked about this as a board with Bill, we do like the idea of getting the questions in, posting them, making them available for anyone to see the answers to. And that's going to be our modus operandi going forward, because every time we've tried to get into a detailed question and answer period, when we don't have all the answers, we give you bad answers. And we're going to try to stop that. Yeah?
I just wanted to also add to that, at the budget presentation, we agreed to take down all the questions and get answers back. And to the best of my knowledge, we did answer those. We've had one or two subsequent questions, one or two. But that's the new way of doing things. And then that way, the people who weren't live at the budget meeting, or maybe even didn't listen to it online, which there are a lot that listen online, then they got a chance to hear the question and see the answer in the same place. And whenever possible, we attributed the question to whoever asked it, but in a couple cases, we didn't take as good a notes, and so we didn't always get the right person with it, but at least we got the question with it.
Go ahead, Tom.
I appreciate that the point you're making about the questions ahead of time. What gets lost in the translation is people that attend them, you might as well just tell people don't attend the meeting. Because those answers, they can go online, but they spur other questions, and that's the reason I asked them. So that's the first part. The answers to the questions at the budget meeting, and I don't know how many of you actually went and read the answers. There was a great, I thought, detailed answers on the sewer question, Ellie's question from there, well done, well prepared. And then there were a lot of the other answers. I just would say that they went lacking. And if you go through and read them, like the spreadsheet has been updated, was what question I had about the Capitol. It's been updated. I got the spreadsheet and it said the same one as I had in July. Okay? I was going to do this after the meeting, and I have to respond to you, so I'm doing it now. Jason, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I gave 11 questions. Started with Bruce. I don't see them anywhere. They weren't on the website. I didn't get a response back. So
Were those from the budget meeting?
yes, I followed the procedure.
Subsequently sent them in, okay.
I followed the procedure. And I didn't want to go there, okay? But my point is, it doesn't work, okay? It doesn't work. We have major issues with communication and so forth, with numbers, you know, with the financials. I know they're going to change. I feel confident they will. But even we talk about them, half the people that come to the meeting don't print them out. You send them out in email. I print them out. I've asked to put them up on the screen, the financial statements, so we know where we were talking about. That's all part of communication, and I'm sorry I'm ranting, so I'll leave. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else for the good of the cause here?
My name's John Patterson. I live at 108 Walden Ridge Drive. I'm looking at number 3, maintaining honesty, integrity, and transparency. You made a decision based on some financial reports, but those financial reports weren't even released until a document request forced you to release them. You intended to present a decision made on bogus information. This is a tough accusation to make, but why does it take a document request for you to release information? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Bocce courts.
I'm sorry, what?
I asked about the bocce courts.
Oh, okay. Is that something we are prepared to answer here today?
What's the question?
What was the specific question,
Well,
Carrie?
yeah, why don't you give us the question again, Carrie?
The 20,000, that was
What's
the
the
delta,
cost
right?
of the bocce courts? It was a mess.
Yes, I stated the building of the bocce courts ended up being a little bit of a disaster. My question was very clearly stated. Did the community club end up incurring a larger cost to repair those posts, or was that taken on by the construction company because of issues?
They were not.
We know what the recommendation was that was not followed. So who incurred that additional expense?
The cost of the metal supports was absorbed by the club, but it was still within the CAR that was originally approved, the funds that were originally approved for bocce.
And that was provided.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Provided to Mr. Miller.
Well, I know, she's not Mr. Miller.
okay.
Well, no, but
Motion to adjourn, Greg.
Is there a second? No, he moved. I need a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for attending, and we do appreciate your comments.